college, I was part of two wonderful theater companies. And one of the theater companies was a specifically children-based theater company run by a wonderful woman with wonderful imagination and who really knew how to work on a budget of nothing. And one thing that always amazed me about doing the children's theater shows is that we did shows that were incredibly dark. I remember my second to last show that I ever did was Macbeth, with yours truly as Macbeth. And we did Macbeth for children. And it wasn't some watered down like baby version. It was Macbeth. And there was a lot of bad stuff. And of course, spoiler alert, I kind of died at the end. But what always amazed me about this particular theater company is how we were able to do dark themes in a way that really resonated with children. And what was beautiful about that was that life doesn't always have a happy ending. And unlike my man Shakespeare says, all does not end well. Now, when I was a kid, I used to hate any type of series or video game that had a bad ending. But as time had gone on, things that don't necessarily end happily have started to have a different effect on me. Maybe it's because I've grown up a little bit since I was a kid, and maybe it's I've been exposed to so much stuff where nothing really phases me anymore. But I have deduced that there is a difference between a bad ending, an ending to a story that feels hollow, incomplete, and pointless, in comparison to a tragic ending. An ending that doesn't end well, but it fits the characters and the universe that it is set in. One ending that I always think about when I think of a bad ending that's hollow and pointless is an ending from one of my favorite childhood series, Pokemon. Now you might be thinking, but Kirk, how could a show about cute little monsters and dragons possibly have a bad ending? Well, here's the thing. The entire point of the series, from the theme song, is that Ash Ketchum, the main character, wants to go out and be the best, the very best, like no one ever was. He's going to beat all the gym leaders, and he's going to rise up top and become the Pokemon champion. Sounds great on paper. And it fits pretty well into the games. I mean, you and Ash have a lot of similarities. You go out, you have a starter Pokemon, you catch more, you have a rival, you fight Team Rocket. But here's the thing. In the game Pokemon, you defeat the Elite Four and the champion, and you rise out on top. In Pokemon the anime series, Ash doesn't win. Ash loses. And it's not like the game where he can just get up and try again. He's just like, that's it. He doesn't learn anything. He doesn't grow because of the experience. He just ends. And he loses. And he doesn't become the Pokemon champion in any season. And see, to me, the ending of Pokemon is not a tragic ending. It's a bad ending. Because the whole point of the series with Ash being the best, we see him rise time and time again, fighting all kinds of legendary Pokemon and battling Team Rocket and Gary and all these gym leaders, right? But there's nothing to show for it. Now, if the show was dark and had a tragic tone and ended with him tragically losing, that would be different. But it doesn't. It's a bad ending. And bad endings make me mad. Now you might be thinking, well surely, Kirk, if there's going to be a bad ending for the Pokemon anime series, then what do you consider a tragic ending? One that is acceptable? Well, how about one from another great anime series? Cowboy Bebop. The world of Cowboy Bebop is mysterious and complex, and each character has their own different character arcs throughout the entirety of the series. And the end of the series ends with the death of everyone's favorite space cowboy. Spike. But what makes the death of Spike tragic and Ash losing all the time bad? Well, see, with Spike, we learn that Spike doesn't really have much of a reason to live anymore. After he left the crime syndicate and faked his own death, he lost his girlfriend, Julia. And after he lost her, he lost the will to live, meandering around space with Jet, just trying to get by. But it's because that he didn't know if Julia was alive or dead, and that not knowing was what kept him going. It was what kept Spike thinking that maybe things will work out. But things don't always work out, Space Cowboy. So what ends up happening is there's a final confrontation. Julia gets murdered and Spike loses his will to live. And he decides to go out with a bang. And he does go out with a bang. There's an awesome raid on the crime syndicate tower, the fight with Vicious at the end. And then Spike collapses and dies. But because the world of Cowboy Bebop was mysterious and dark, and many themes of the show included tragedy, it doesn't really upset me too much that Spike meets his end, because in the world of Cowboy Bebop, not everyone is supposed to have a happy ending. Spike wasn't supposed to be with Julia for the rest of his life, because he couldn't move on from the past. And because he couldn't learn, he unfortunately died. See, I think what ends up happening is that people get so emotionally upset by tragic endings that they call them bad. And I could understand that. When I was, like I said earlier, when I was younger, yeah, anything that had a tragic ending I didn't like. But eventually you reach a point in your life where you kind of realize that everything isn't sunshine and rainbows. Not every dream is going to be obtainable. And not everyone's going to succeed in everything that they do. But the important thing to remember is that that's okay. You don't have to be perfect. Lord knows I ain't perfect. And I don't mind watching tragic stuff anymore. Makes me feel. And not like a, ooh, I'm glad that's not me. Like, it just makes me feel. And whether that's anger or sadness or frustration or even joy when things end well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's all right to feel. Feeling is what makes us human. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that one bit. So if you're watching, a series and it ends tragically and you get really mad, don't call it a bad ending. And I would much rather have anything end like Cowboy Bebop, where a character's death has impact and it's important and it makes me feel, rather than a hollow, empty, crappy piece of shit ending like the Pokemon series. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been another episode of Kirk Talk, and I will see you guys in the next one.